So the real story behind America's obesity. That's a title that I've altered a little bit, but stole from another article I recently wrote. You know, we all like to look for a villain. There's just one thing. You know, there's one bad guy. If we get rid of the bad guy, life is good. So this is about the real story behind America's obesity. Seed oil. Is this true? It's partially true. 16 truths about insulin resistance. Truth number 5, the skinny on fats, insulin resistance relative to pounds overweight. So we're looking at pounds overweight and insulin resistance relative to the fats that they have. This is pretty fascinating, actually. All right, we're breaking it down. We did before omega-6, 3, and then the components thereof. Okay, so the big picture is, got to tell you how weight is calculated. You can either do, in terms of doing scientific references to people's body weight, you either look at BMI or you look at ideal body weight. And so I used ideal body weight because it's measured in pounds, and I gave a link, so however you want to look at it, you can have it in kilograms if you want to. But in the United States, where I live now, it's about pounds. I like pounds because people can relate to pounds. They can't really relate to BMI. BMI is this concept that they feel that they should know about, but they really don't. I'm using this one. They're interchangeable, and so there is an equivalent, but this is what I'm using is right over here. So when I say pounds overweight, it's people's weight that I work with them. It's how much they weigh relative to how much they should weigh by plugging it in. Basically, it's a height and weight sort of chart with some gender and age adjustments. And I like that a lot. It's just a little more, I like that metric. Okay, so we're doing the same analysis, omega-6, 3, omega-6, and then 3, and then arachidonic and linoleic acid for omega-6s, and EPA and DHA for omega-3s to discover what's really happening. And we're always going to divide it into insulin resistance and non-insulin resistant people. Let's look at, here we go, omega-6, 3 ratio and pounds overweight. We go, well, it's pretty straightforward. There's a relationship here. The worse your relationship, the worse your ratio of 6, 3. We don't know if it's too much 6 or not enough 3, but the worse that ratio is, higher 6 and lower 3, the heavier you're going to be. That's the conclusion for one size fits all. That's what medicine looks like. They don't break it down into insulin resistance or non-insulin resistant people. But what does that mean? Do you have a clue? I don't have a clue. All right, so before I go further, the background on seed oil needs to be sort of like broadened a little bit. What's the hype? What's right according to the actual data, all right? A lot of this is, I'm just laying it out there. I've covered this in other videos just to sort of say what I agree on. I'm not gonna disagree with a lot of things that are very obvious. And you can see I put in 1977 for a number of reasons, because that's really when the National Nutritional Guidelines came out. In 77. So is this relevant today is what I'm saying. So what they've done, and here's the references below from the CDC, whether you like them or not, says obesity prevalence in the US 1960s through 2018. So that's roughly 60 years. And it says, gosh, there's an inflection point around 1977 when the nutritional guidelines came out. They said low fat. I'm not going to go into this. I've covered it before, but this is true. You know, and basically inflection point was first you had obesity, BMI over 30, they don't think in my units, and then severe obesity. Pretty straightforward, nobody disagrees. Prevalence obesity among US adults, 20 to 74, now by age. You'll find, by the way, that this angle is pretty much the same. What they did is they stretched out the graph. So it's unfortunately, for instance, from here to there is roughly 25 years, from here to there is 10 years. So they simply stretched it out. It keeps on going up and they expect it to be a whole lot higher. And I think we know how that happened. I call it processed foods. I do think a component of processed foods is seed oils. I don't think that's entirely the story. So there you go. I'm not trying to hide my opinion. This is from NHANES. Basically, and this is pulled from other studies, you had two things going on. The production of seed oils and all its applications has increased over the last 100 years. That's well known, well documented. And the increased consumption, sort of obviously that. Some little points to point out here. Excessive seed oil hypothesis. The more seed oil we eat, the more diseases we get. This is not my view, but it has a kernel of truth, no pun intended. Seed oils in pounds per person per year is what we're looking at. So they're saying this is the consumption, the consumption of the seed oils, generally speaking. Seed oils were high polyunsaturated plant oils, canola, corn, cottonseed, soy, sunflower, safflower is really the highest, and all considered vegetable oils. And they say, well, look at diabetes and prediabetes also increased at the same time. What decreased? All right, now let's look. Lard, which was very common from the early 1900s up to really about the 60s. Dropped off to nearly not at all. Lard is supposed to be bad. And tallow, if you know what that is from beef. Lard is from pigs, that's pig fat. And tallow is beef fat. So that dropped off. Then they made margarine, that was popular for a while, and even that dropped off. And butter dropped off. So they're saying, well, it's all about the seed oils. And here's the different kinds of seed oils, the consumption side and the different consumption, what were they consuming more of? We've seen this before. I'm not going to sort of really distill it down to the particular one. Which one is pink here? Pink is that soy primarily. Anyway, so you got the picture. Nobody disagrees about that. Also, trends in meat consumption. What you find is meat is decreasing. Remember we talked about arachidonic acid, animal products? So we have meat decreasing, poultry increasing. What do you give poultry? Yes, you do feed commercial poultry is soy and corn primarily. And it says the fish consumption has unchanged over the last 100 years. I think the fish consumption has decreased a lot over the last 100 years. I don't know many people that actually eat fish. All right, since 1977, summary here, decreased amount of dairy. Dairy, when we talk about dairy, is people drinking milk. Dairy has now impregnated all our foods in many other ways. So we're getting it, for those who eat processed foods, they're getting a lot more dairy than they actually had before when they're drinking milk. Beef decreased, fats, pork. Increase was poultry, shortening, and soy. And that's basically what all this is. And we can look at each different line. Let's see, like, what increased? The black line here was poultry, as we saw before. The red line here is soy, and so on and so forth. So I'm just giving you a little background, and even, this is actually the name of a study. It said, and we've now, this is N. Haynes again. I've told you about what N. Haynes was in the previous video. So N. Haynes showed that there was an increasing amount of linoleic acid in fat, in adipose tissue, over the last 50 years or so. So that's never been correlated. So correlation between adipose tissue, linoleic acid concentration, and dietary intake. You eat more, you get more in your fat. Okay, does that mean it's a bad thing? It means it's a component. Adipose tissue linoleic acid concentration is strongly correlated with dietary linoleic intake. Duh is my word. So a lot of people this is a bandwagon. Everybody, stop eating seed oil, stop drinking, using seed oil. I mean, if you want to join a bandwagon and have everybody think you're smart, this is it. There's podcasts coming out. It's been that way and I even did 4 years ago a number of YouTubes on this, videos. However, I think the truth is a little more sophisticated than it's bad, stay away. So first question is, are you having sunflower seeds? If you're having just the seeds, peeling them and eating them, there's not a worry at all. I don't know if anybody eats safflower or if anybody actually eats directly canola. But if you're having sunflower seeds, have as many as you want. That's not going to make a difference. What does make a difference is it goes through the process. And if you're guzzling this or putting this on your food in any way, or you're going to a restaurant that has this, cooks in it because it's a lot cheaper, that is a problem. So using this is a problem. Eating these individual raw components is not a problem. Long before I started doing videos, I was doing podcasts. And there's two places you can get these podcasts. One is on our YouTube station, which is cycling through all the podcasts I've done and do. And the other is on Buzzsprout. If you're more of a podcast audio listener as opposed to a visual, then you might want to listen to those. Those topics are a little more academic, if you will. It go much deeper because I don't have to do drawings and slides and so on and so forth. I can talk pretty much extemporaneously on various research or topics or people's concerns. So we go into protein sparing modified fast. We go into the early days of people starting a ketogenic diet. So all those sorts of things are covered there on the podcast. Consider it. The links are below. Let's look at the actual data for a different perspective from all the hype we're hearing. So I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's very general and it's missing some truths that really need to be addressed. So the analysis of fatty acids, we're doing omega-6, 3, then breaking it apart from 6 and 3, see if there's a difference, and then breaking those apart to their main components to discover what's actually happening. And every group is going to be broken down into insulin resistance and non-insulin resistance groups, all right? So you just saw this, pounds overweight. Let's compare pounds overweight for everybody, and now pounds overweight broken down into non-insulin resistant people in green and insulin resistant. So IR people and non-IR people. What do we say? The trend is the same. It's just that meaning that the omega-6, 3 ratio gets worse the heavier you are. And when we break that down into non-insulin resistant people, they are heavier, but still the trend is the same regardless of insulin resistance or not. Slight difference in angle, but it's the same, but slight difference in degree. So there's no argument there. Yeah, there's an association. What about it? Pounds overweight compared to omega-6 and 3s. All right, so omega-6, now we find that, wait a minute, kind of we saw this before in the last one. Omega-6, increase your omega-6 and your pounds overweight decreases, meaning that those people who have higher amounts of omega-6 fats in their blood have lower poundage, have fewer pounds overweight. How's that again? And basically it's the same, meaning that the non-insulin resistant people have more omega-6 fats. Omega-6, I didn't say linoleic or arachidonic, I said omega-6. So omega-6, they have more, and the insulin resistant people have less. But the more they have in their group, the lower their weight is. Isn't that interesting? So now we do omega-3. You could say the same thing. The line is almost identical. Yeah, they cross a little bit, but it's pretty much the same angle. Not enough to split hairs here. The more omega-3 they have, the lower weight they're going to have. It's basically saying increase fat, lower pounds, fewer pounds over ideal body weight. Break it down again. Omega-6 is arachidonic acid and linoleic acid. What do we find? We find that dashed lines are insulin resistant people. Dashed lines, dash, 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 dash. Over here, we're saying green is linoleic acid. Really, again, doesn't make a difference. So for insulin resistant people, linoleic acid does not make a difference in terms of them being heavy or light, fewer pounds over ideal body weight or greater pounds. But it does make, this is really amazing, for non-insulin resistant people, the more linoleic acid they have, the greater pounds overweight. Now we expected that truth to be true of everybody, right? Oh, you're having too much of that, you're going to get heavy. That's only true for non-insulin resistant people, and I'm going to split hairs on that in a second. But basically, in terms of linoleic acid, it's only about non-IR people having more, will they get heavier. Another truth you never heard about. Here's another thing. Whether you're insulin resistant or not, more arachidonic acid is associated with fewer pounds overweight, meaning more arachidonic acid, more animal products you're consuming on a regular basis to get that animal fat, arachidonic acid, fewer pounds overweight. Never heard that before either. Okay, now what about omega-3? Can we split hairs here? Not really. You know, that's an identical line. DHA is the same whether you're insulin resistant or not. The more, but it's pretty dramatic. So this is DHA is the green. The more DHA you have, more so than EPA, the fewer pounds overweight you'll have, the more normalized your weight will be. It's also true with EPA, but not as dramatic. And you could say that lower EPA, it's less of an issue. It's a little more acute for non-insulin resistant, but it's really not enough to split hairs. But there you go. What really is associated with pounds overweight? Let's summarize this now. What we find is arachidonic acid, DHA, and EPA all need to be increased for people to have lower body weight. All need to be increased or increased higher levels of arachidonic acid, DHA, EPA, 1 omega-6, 2 omega-3s, correlate with lower, fewer pounds overweight or ideal body weight. Whereas linoleic acid is a weird one. Higher amounts of linoleic acid in non-insulin resistant people correlates with being heavier, but not with non-insulin resistant people. That's amazing. Remember, we're dealing in two different groups of fats, omega-6s and omega-3s. So linoleic acid, omega-6 fat is correlated with higher body weight, but only for non-insulin resistant people. Again, I'm showing you that, but what's interesting here is if you look at what is the average number, I'm going to pull this apart a little bit. The mid-range of NHANES, LabCorp, all these places we get these measured of megaquant. In my data is right here at 24.5. That's exactly where these two graphs point to. So I would interpret this way. In other words, normalizing. If you can get up to 24, 25, that's the amount of linoleic acid you should have. It is an essential fatty acid. Having more than that, if you're non-insulin resistant, is going to add weight. Having less than that is going to add weight if you're insulin resistant. So it normalized to hit that point. Some ranges are very specific, some ranges are broad, okay? So omega-3, DHA, and arachidonic acid are correlated with lower body weight the more you have. Never heard that before, did you? All right, so this makes sense when you know where the midpoint is for linoleic acids. There's the LabCorp number, there's the omega quant, and here's the combined number of those. And then my data is over here. I have fewer people, so my data my average, and I don't like looking at averages, that's why I do scatter plots. Averages can be kind of skewed. The smaller population you have, like if one person had, a group of one, it's kind of irrelevant. That's why you need more people. But anyway, so here you go. We're looking at LabCorp mid-range is 24, Omega Quant was 23, combined 23.5. What do you care? Well, again, when you look at, isn't that interesting that this graph, from my data, points to that number specifically? That's the number you should have. So again, it's for higher than that for non-insulin resistant people is pounds overweight. Less than that for insulin resistant people is pounds overweight. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Linoleic acid actually does not have a recommended range. It's the only essential fatty acid that doesn't have a recommended range. It has a range of data that comes in, but they don't say, hey, this is how much you should have. That's why I think this number is very important. 24. What about arachidonic acid? Let's look at that a little more nuanced. Actually, it's real straightforward. It's the same pattern whether you're non-insulin resistant or insulin resistant. The more you have, the fewer pounds overweight you are, over ideal body weight. For arachidonic acid, insulin resistance hardly matters. For arachidonic acid, insulin resistance hardly matters. The two groups are almost exactly the same. The higher the amount of arachidonic acid you consume, the lower is going to be your excess weight to the point that it's normal. Again, linoleic acid, arachidonic acid. What is the point? Higher arachidonic associated with lower body weight, pounds overweight. For both insulin resistance and non-insulin resistance. Animal products. I used to be a vegetarian. I have a lot more animal products, but this is overwhelming. This data really confirms that there's a necessity to have animal products. 2, linoleic acid, the goal is 24. That's the number I've pointed here. Goal is 24. Take it, know it, shoot for that. I've never been told that before. Higher is excess weight for non-insulin resistant people, meaning higher than 24% in your blood, if you want to complete that sentence. Lower than that is excess weight for non-insulin resistant people. Amazing! Whereas for both, arachidonic acid, increase it, normalize your weight. So if this is something that you're interested in, that is a topic that I obviously go deeper in terms of labs, in terms of how to do it, in terms of why you would want to do it, various topics, as you've seen that I've done in the past, then please let me know below in a comment. Till then.